Welcome back into the workshop. Monday public holiday in Christchurch here. And what have we got? Well, got the top for my mitre station. The top, at least when I'm talking about that, in this case, it's the base upon which the saw is rigidly mounted or positively mounted. And the method I've chosen is to have a steel bar that spans both of the front feet of the mitre saw. Sounds good. Means I only need to have another bar at the back, which I've got cut, to also locate it positively against the hard surfaces of the steel. That seemed to make a lot of sense to me. When I've put this bar in, I drilled through the bar into the plywood, both holes, and then of course did the respective requirements for. I've got a threaded insert in the ply, put it in from underneath, drilled out the holes, etc., and everything was fine until I went to screw the plate, the steel plate, onto the plywood base, and I could feel that that end is a little bit in that way and that one is a little bit out this way. We're talking maybe a mil or so. And I thought, disappointing, but I've come across this before. That's allowing no real wriggle room for the bolts in the hole, so it's quite a reasonably good fit. That seemed to make sense, but now I'm starting to wonder. I thought, right, because I have got this rigid, there is no wriggle room for adjustment. And in the back of my mind, I was going, should I have done that? And the answer is, got no idea as yet, but that's what I thought at least was a good idea. Cutting to the chase, I decided to put a straight edge along the fence of the saw and then measure it off the cabinet on each end. After all, the cabinet will have the bench dogs drilled into them and registered, etc. So wouldn't it be better to have things nice and at least parallel or square or symmetric for this sort of job? What did I find? Well, that bar at that length was 10 millimeters different from that end. In other words, I had to move one end around 5 millimeters or so. No, I had to do it more than that, didn't I? And that was what was annoying me. Because I've decided that this point here is fixed, I'm rotating around that point, so I had to push this back a lot further than the, splitting the difference sort of thing. So I had to go back a little bit more, irking me somewhat, because now I've got a good sized gap there. I could slot the bolt hole and slide it in. Unsatisfactory to me. I could grind a bit off of the steel. A lot of work, but was also one of those things that I thought I may have to do at some stage anyway to fine-tune it. Thing is, it's a pain in the butt. It should have been, in theory, dead nuts accurate from the get-go, the way I did the process, and it just shows you that when you're drilling, you don't always get what you expect. If everything worked perfectly, yes, you would, because we're not in an engineering workshop, we didn't get it right. Now, that's the excuses that, well, that's not the excuse, this is what's happened. And now I'm left a wee bit perplexed how I'm going to resolve this. Trim the steel a little bit, not that onerous. I could just take a little scallop of steel out of here, not particularly hard to do, and then reposition it, making sure that to the cabinet it's accurate. Now, the question would be, how accurate is the cabinet? Point being, though, it's fixed in space now. It's fixed, it's set in concrete. Take any way of explaining it. I've got a fixed point each end that I'd like the saw to align to. can I have a packer here? Unsatisfactory, because then you would have to make sure that that packer stays there, doesn't move, doesn't get any muck or chip in between it. So it's unsatisfactory. Can I drill the edge of the steel, which is 10 mil? Can I put a hole in it and put a little grub screw to tune and align the saw? Yes, that's a possibility. That was one of my first thoughts. I've got some... that was one thought. But then, how accurate am I going to get the rear plate? Am I going to have the same problem where it's either too tight, too loose, misaligned? And that's a wee bit of a nuisance. I'm a little bit disappointed in my accuracy there, despite the process, which should have ensured that accuracy. So I didn't get it. Darn it. And now I'm left wondering the best option to move forward. I thought about flipping the steel, which I've done already, flipping it over and see whether the inaccuracy of one position alters. I'm going to do that again, but that then misaligns the front edge, which can be fudged a little bit by grinding it true. It's just unsatisfactory to have a lip there and a lip there in the two pieces. So yeah, you do all the work that you think you're going to get a nice outcome, happy with the rest of it, put the two ends on and the measurements are to the mil. So I'm thinking, oh yeah, no problem. This will be a straightforward thing to do then, won't it? Yeah, if you're lucky. And I wasn't. So I don't know what error crept in, but possibly was the drilling, just using a hand drill rather than putting it in the on the drill press. So go figure. Damned annoying, I gotta say. But we will resolve it. But I've got a feeling I will need to build in a wee bit of wriggle room on the assembly. So darn it, haven't drilled on the edge of it before, the steel, because no need. Something 10 mil. By the time you put, say, a 6 mil hole in it and tap it, it's like, ew. Anyway, I should stick to my wood, shouldn't I? Anyway, we'll get there because we've got no choice but to get there. Okay, just thought I'd add that little nugget of Dave's diary entry, showing my ineptitude in some degree and winding up for this problem. Darn it. Oh well. Let me have some time and I'll see whether I can resolve it and how I resolve it. And then I'll get back to you. Okay, see you in the next one now. Bye.